Typhoon Goni, Philippine name Raleigh, originated in south of Guam on October 26, 2020, is the most powerful storm recorded worldwide this year. On October 29, Goni entered the Philippine Area of Responsibility and was named Raleigh by the Pag-asa. Early on the following day, the system was declared a super typhoon. At 2 p.m. November 1, it first made landfall in the Philippines, hitting Bato, Catanduanes. This was the second time that the Pag-asa declared a system as a super typhoon, the first being Haima in 2016. This is also the second time that the highest warning level, signal number 5, was raised in the Philippines. Goni made additional landfalls in Tiwi, Albay, and San Narciso, Quezon on November 1. Goni then made its fourth and final landfall in the Philippines in Lobo, Batangas. Interaction with land plus an increase in wind shear caused Goni to rapidly weaken, and it emerged over the West Philippine Sea as a minimal tropical storm. And on November 3, Tuesday 8 p.m., Typhoon Raleigh exited the Philippine Area of Responsibility and then moved westward over the South China Sea. And then it moved generally westward towards Vietnam. It eventually reached the country late on November 5 as a tropical depression, bringing heavy rain and gusty winds. In the Philippines, the storm brought severe flash flooding to Lake Aspi as well as lahar flow from the nearby Mayon volcano. There were widespread power outages as well as damaged power and transmission lines in Bicol. Crops were also heavily damaged. And due to the extreme wind speed of the typhoon, evacuation shelters had their roofing lost. Debris and lahars had also blocked various roads as well as rendering the Basod Bridge impassable. In every city that the typhoon made a landfall to caused many people deaths and some went missing. After the storm's passing, the NDRRMC has reported the total damage to agriculture and infrastructure was estimated at 20 billion pesos and 31 people were reported dead. In Bicol, the officials issued a no-sale policy that was put in place on October 29, while the Camarines Norte Incident Management Team began evacuated 35,000 families. While in Camarines Sur, the local governments began forced evacuations with the province DRRMC expecting the evacuation of 20,000 families before noon. And by noon, they had only evacuated 6,645 individuals from 75 villages. And by the end of the day, almost 1 million individuals were evacuated, 749,000 from Albay and 200,000 from Camarines Sur. A total of 480,000 and 174 individuals were preemptively evacuated in 8 regions. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, together with local disaster response agency, preferred emergency food packs and stunt funds. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology had also issued advisories warning of possible lahar contamination of nearby rivers and drainage areas near Mount Pinatubo, the Mayon volcano, and the Taal volcano. The Disaster Risk Reductions and Management Office of Manila has also prepared rescue boats for potential rescue operations. And even before Typhoon Raleigh happened, there was a Typhoon Pipito that hit the Philippines with a Category 1 hurricane and typhoon. And after the Typhoon Raleigh struck the Philippines, Typhoon Quinta or Sony was nearing the Philippine Area of Responsibility dated October 29, 2020 to November 7, 2020, which is in a category of severe tropical storm. And with that, some people that had their areas prone to typhoon had it really hard with coping up. The COVID-19 pandemic was also a concern for people in evacuation centers. Any existing evacuation centers in every city, usually basketball courts and multi-purpose halls, were already being used by victims of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is complicated the evacuation for those affected by the typhoon. And the NDRRMC also recommended to not fill evacuation centers completely to comply with social distancing regulations to prevent the spread of the virus. There was also some people who insisted to stay with their houses. As the news says, the people who died are the ones who insisted on staying, and those who sought shelter in safer areas are safe. It also added that the Philippines is prone to tropical cyclones due to its geographical location, which generally produce heavy rains and flooding of large areas, and also strong winds which result in heavy casualties to human life and destruction to crops and properties. It is also said that broadcast news coverage on Goni was significantly reduced compared to typhoons in previous years because of the shutdown of the ABS-CBN broadcast network, which had strong signals reach in provinces far from Manila. This caused difficulties in disseminating information about Goni to remote localities where only the said network could reach, resulting in people voicing their frustrations on social media during and after the typhoon.